SCG Live, hashtag SCGATL for your tweets all weekend long. It's been fun thus far, and we do appreciate you guys joining us. It's Temple of Enlightenment to get things started off here for Esper Control, a deck that I think is going to pick up in popularity over the next couple of weeks based off of Sheen's performance.
There's a lot of people who want to play this sort of deck, and it just didn't look like that was possible. That's all that's stopping people from playing a deck like Esper.
Yeah.
Control strategies definitely have their fans. But for a while, it just seemed like, yep, you had to be playing Abzan or Jeskai or Mono Red. That's kind of the week one metagame. But control decks like this, they take time to build. You have to figure out what the reactive cards are for the threats that are in the format. You have to figure out exactly how you want to win the game because all the win conditions have their different merits. It's really rare for a control deck to be the best thing to be doing week one because you don't know what you're trying to fight yet. It takes a little time for the list to congeal. And now, after Shaheen's performance in Richmond last weekend, I'm pretty sure we have the foundation for a very solid control deck for the format.
Yeah, I think so too. It is a tap-out control deck. It's not a, counterspell, leave my mana untapped or like a flash deck that we have seen before, but still quite good. See Windswept Teeth search of Plains, now there's a favorite hot play. 4 copies of Windswept Teeth here in this particular build of Heroic from Hillard. You typically don't find that.
I imagine there's some delving going on here.
Treasure Cruise in the main deck. There's one of those, so there is some delving going on. Looks like a Treasure Cruise in the sideboard too, so helping just to make sure that he's able to do that. There's another copy of Windswept Teeth.
Very rare to see that many fetch lands just for the one delve card. Because you do run the risk of running out of lands. We've seen that come up before. It's infrequent. The points of damage matter too. Those aren't free.
5 plains, 2 islands, as far as lands are concerned.
It's basically free in this matchup. This is the type of matchup where I would want to play every fetch land and get my hands on because it doesn't really cost you anything.
Thin your deck out a little bit. Of course, those percentages are pretty small, but
just the more efficient the Treasure Cruise is, the better, and the life points don't really matter.
Sure.
But if you're playing against monster strategies, Mono Red, Jeskai, those points of damage do matter a lot.
See what Hillard wants to play this turn. He's going to start by attacking for 1. Yarbourgh going to go down to 19. Do we have a follow-up? We do. It's a copy of Hero of Iroas. This deck, based off of Tom Ross's performance in Columbus, is really picking up in popularity. And to be fair, it's quite a good deck.
It's very good. It's pretty fun to play. And it is not expensive to build either.
Yeah.
That's a big factor as well.
Ashek's going to come down. It's going to exile 3 cards. So there's a Battlewise Hoplite and Heliod's Pilgrim among them, and then a copy of Treasure Cruise. So we'll go back Hilliard's way. One thing he's missing right now is just blue mana. That's the biggest issue here for him.
And lands in general. That mill was actually really good for Zebiriah here.
There's an Ordeal of Heliod. That'll trigger the Heroic on favorite Hoplite. So now it's become a 2-3 attacker, working its way towards a 3-4 once it actually does get to attack. And away we go. The beatdowns. Bye-bye Ashiok, just like that. Got to keep that thing off the table.
Not a great turn there for Ashiok.
Yeah.
Kind of just showed up and then kind of left.
I mean, kind of a fog, really. I think is the best way to look at it because it allowed Chris to play a land drop as well. So he got to play his 3rd land, Ashiok, then bit the bullet. So in a weird way, it's a fog because there's a Pluto Delta along with a Sorin. Of course, able to use the Pluto Delta for mana without cracking because Yarbourgh is in play. Sorin will minus. A Vampire token will be joining the battlefield in just a second. And there is the boss, T. Ross. So he's got a 2-2 blocker for now. But this is the kind of, this is the kind of game that I think this Esper Control deck kind of plays is, play a Planeswalker, kind of divert your attention, clear your board, keep my life total high.
The way this game is shaping up here, if Christopher has an end hostilities on 5, I think Zebiriah is going to be really hard-pressed to win.
Yeah, I think so too.
But if he doesn't have that, the Heroic deck has very good tools for fighting this kind of fight. You can see God's Willing, a Stubborn Denial he'll have access to next turn. It'll be hard for Christopher to resolve high-impact spells after this turn.
Yeah, the Stubborn Denial is so good. But the fact that there's no untapped blue mana is the big issue. Trigger the Ordeal. Going to gain 10 life, will Hillard. Sorin, biting the dust. No blocking to be done here from the Vampire token. Is there a follow-up is the question. The answer is no. So we'll go back Yarbrough's way. He'll draw a card, and we'll see what he can put together on this, his 5th turn. Start with the Temple of Deceit. A 12 Temple build he's working with.
And that's a big miss there for Christopher. Because of the God's Willing and now the Stubborn Denial, these 1-for-1 trades are going to be really hard.
Yeah. Denial is turned on right now as well because of Ferocious on the favorite hoplite. Here are the beatdowns. See if Christopher wants to do any trading. He's done a nice job of keeping his life total high by diverting Zebiriah's attention with the Planeswalkers. Well, it's a different game now. He's going right at Yarborough's life total. Looks like Chris is going to trade, or at least attempt to. But the Vampire token is going to trade with a copy of nothing because Defiant Strike is going to cantrip. So this is actually a pretty good turn.
We'll see if Christopher wants to pick a fight here. He does have a Hero's Downfall in hand. But if he pulls the trigger here, it plays right into God's Willing, and Zebiriah gets to do all this with Stubborn Denial still left over.
Yeah. So it looks like Defiant Strike is on the stack, and Yarbrough is deciding if he does want to counter this or potentially use a Hero's Downfall. Gives Defiant Strike the thumbs up. So Heroic Trigger, and draw a card. Seeker the ways to draw. Looks like damage is going to come through.
And Zebiriah does not need to add anything else to his board. He can just sit on his heels right now.
I would be very comfortable with this board.
Oh, yeah.
And make you beat this. Now, there are ways for Christopher to beat this. I mean, 6 land plus Elspeth, for example, changes the game. So. There are definitely some options. There's the 6th land. Another Delta.
And Christopher's showing a lot of respect for the possibility of, God's Willing here. He's been really patient about not just trying to cast removal spells when he also has an opportunity to do so. He's trying to set things up, but he's running out of time. And he may have to pull the trigger this turn.
It's another sizable attack. 7 points of damage. That's coming through. Wow. He's going to have to do something or he's going to die. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, that's the game rule.
Yeah, that's the trick.
You can only take 8 so many times.
Yeah. Three mana, Downfall. It very quickly brings God's Willing forward. There's Dissolve. So picking a little bit of a battle here.
So you can see why Christopher decided to wait until this point here.
There's Stubborn Denial. It does make sense.
Trying to set up a spot where he can play something with a counterspell backup.
God's Willing is going to resolve.
Now,
Top card going to go to the bottom.
Christopher lost the fight, but this does open up the possibility of drawing in hostilities and being right back in the game.
Time to draw. Don't think there's one hiding out over there. Ashiok, not you. Turn over a couple of cards. A Tranquil Cove. An Ordeal of Hillard and a Battle-Wise Hoplite. There's a Temple of Deceit. Top card. Bottoms up. And somebody's trying to hold on for dear life here. I think Yarbourgh hoping that Zebiriah will go after Ashiok.
I suspect that will not be happening here.
Oh. Thumbs up.
Well, this is lethal. Okay.
Thumbs down. Yeah, that is lethal. That's going to do it. You see a little bit of a smile there for Christopher. Not able to put too much together there in game one. So Zebiriah Hillard will win game one. White Blue Heroic up a game over Esper Control. So we turn our attention to the sideboard. And this control deck needs a little help after that game.
2 copies of Disdainful Stroke, 2 Prognostic Sphinx, 3 Nyx Fleece Ram, 4 Drowned Sorrow, 2 Negate, a Glare of Heresies, and an Utter End. I like the Glare of Heresy. I think the Utter End is fine here. The 4 copies of Drowned Sorrow I like. And I think that Nyx Fleece Ram, if Christopher's committed to trying to keep his Planeswalkers in his deck, I think he needs to shore up his early game and get some blockers in. I also wouldn't be surprised to see him mostly bail on the Planeswalkers and try to just become a removal control deck. Maybe he brings in Prognostic Sphinx to that end, because that's also something that can't be hit with Stubborn Denial. So I think Chris basically has 2 different paths he can take here. He can make some small changes to the deck, probably just bring in the Drowned Sorrows and the extra spot removal spells and call it a day. I like switching around the deck quite a bit and bringing in almost everything that isn't Prognostic Sphinx, cutting the Planeswalkers, and just shifting the deck around.
Just a kind of a complete overhaul.
Yeah, I think that trying to win the game through Planeswalkers is pretty tough against someone with Summer Denial in their deck, because they can fight over sweepers, they can also fight over your Planeswalkers. So I'd rather just overload on removal and then try to win the game through Prognostic Sphinx.
Other side of things, a sideboard that most will be used to. 3 copies of Burmaz, King of Oreskos, 2 negates of Stubborn Denial of Treasure Cruise, 3 copies of Triton Tactics, we don't see that one very much. Glare of Heresy, 2 Devouring Lights, and 2 copies of Erase. Not a lot of great options here in the sideboard, though I do like the counter spells and 2 negate and 1 Stubborn Denial. Let's throw Treasure Cruise in there too.
Yeah, I love those 4 cards. We're in the same place. I don't really like the Glare of Heresy. I don't want to really be reacting to Christopher's Permanence if I'm Zebiriah, because I think the Planeswalkers you have a natural way to fight over. Stubborn Denial and Negate also gives you more interaction against those cards if you're worried about it. And the second Treasure Cruise seems great here. If the game's likely to go on for a long time, and Treasure Cruise is great in all those sorts of games.
Well, while these players do shuffle up for game number 2, we will talk about regionals by Star City Games being held February 7th, which is Pro Tour weekend.
Yep, we're going to be running regional and state championships all throughout the year, every Pro Tour weekend. So the winter and summer will be regionals, spring and autumn will be states. That means their upcoming Winter Regional Championship is coming February 7th and 8th, again, Pro Tour weekend. We've announced the dates and the venues. StarCityGames.com/regionals for more information, but if you're interested where the nearest regionals is to you, we have that information available for you now.
And of course, first 200 players that sign up are going to get a really sweet playmat. They're all together. It's free and exclusive to the first 200 players that do sign up for their regionals. February 7th, StarCityGames.com/regionals for more information. I don't really know what to call this. It's kind of just a squirrel party.
Squirrel Menagerie.
Okay. That's a fun Squirrelscape.
Squirrelscape is not bad.
I like that.
Squirrelscape is pretty good. I'll get down with that.
Menagerie is a nice word, though. It's just kind of, it flutters.
Yeah.
It flutters right off the tongue. I kind of like it.
Although Menagerie usually implies all sorts of different sorts of animals, so it's not perfect, but...
Sure. I guess there's a little bit of a flaw in using that word. Yeah. We'll go with Squirrelscape.
Okay. Squirrels, the Gathering.
No, not a fan of that at all.
Not taking that one?
We're not going to go with that one. I'll probably get us sued anyway, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
So there is that. But you can't.
I'm sorry, my copyright law is not great. This comes up a lot, unfortunately.
You have to work on that a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, you guys can pick up this playmat first. 200 players, free and exclusive to you at our regional championships. Plant your flag February 7th. StarCityGames.com/regionals for more information. As game number 2 will be underway here in round 5 in just a moment. I'm going to have to make sure I get one of those playmats. I'm going to have to talk with the powers that be.
I think that's a pretty big upset there for Zebiriah to get game 1. Though, in his defense, I think having access to Stubborn Denial is a big shift for this matchup.
Stubborn Denial is great.
It is great here.
Love it.
Not great in every matchup, but in this
Absolutely.
it is great here.
Love that card. Very powerful. See, that now that I just watched that game, now I want to play Heroic again.
Okay.
Just after that. It's just...
The swings.
It really is. It's like a seesaw. I'm into it, I hate it. I'm into it, I hate it. But it is kind of a swingy deck for what it's worth.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the games where that deck is humming, it looks incredible.
Yeah.
And the games where it's losing, it often looks unplayable.
It looks really bad when it's losing, I think. You know, there are some games that loses where it's a racing situation, but then there are other games where it's just unplayable. It's I don't even know how to say. It just kind of is what it is, really. So, game number 2 between these two players underway. Yarbourgh, a player that we see some, he's number 26 on the Open Series leaderboard.
Definitely a Southeastern player. I think he's from Atlanta.
Yeah, I think around this general area. You know, he's running to Brad and Brian Brondewin and Todd at some tournaments. So they're very familiar with each other. Same kind of general area.
The South.
Yes, just group it all up.
The South.
All right. See if these players can find opening hands that they like. I do want to thank you guys for joining us today, too, this afternoon. Over 7,000 viewers hanging out with us. Watching some Magic action, watching Christopher Yarbourgh cast a Thoughtseize. Here are the options. You see a Stubborn Denial. Looks like you might see 2 of them, along with a copy of Aqueous Form and a Hero of Iroas. And this is a good hand to be Thoughtseizing.
Thoughtseize often gets critiqued against beatdown decks because, well, the life total matters and they're really redundant. Both those things are true. But White-Blue Heroic is an exception to that rule because it has so many disjointed draws. You can take the one powerful enchantment and leave them with just a bunch of 2/2s for 2. You can take their one creature, leave them with a bunch of enchantments, and this is exactly one of those kind of hands.
So Swamp Plus Thoughts is a traditional play in the standard format. Takes care of the hero. Hillard will draw cards, a copy of Defiant Strike, and his hand is pretty poor, though this Scry from Temple Lightman may help things out. Windswept Teeth, that's going to the bottom very quickly. Going to head back Yarborough's way. Yarbourgh will draw a card. Does have another copy of Thoughtseize over there, but the hand is pretty weak, so I'd be surprised if he fires that off.
Yeah, this is an interesting dilemma here for Christopher because he knows the hand's bad, so the Thoughtseize is not worth very much here. But Zebiriah can also probably just cast any creature he draws, so is his Thoughtseize going to get any better? There's also the possibility that Zebiriah just drew a creature this turn.
No Thoughtseize. Favorite Hoplites to draw. This is the problem we talked about. Going to sacrifice Flooded Strand. We'll see if it'll be a Plains or an Island here. There's a Plains. And figure out what to deploy.
Probably his only thing.
Leave up the old Stubborn Denial. Unlikely to counter something, but could counter Hero's Downfall very easily. Though Yarbourgh does know about both of them, so
It's really hard for that card to be dead here, just because it's most likely Zebiriah gets to a point where he has a 4-power creature in play.
yeah.
So Christopher knows about it, and that's really helpful.
I like Stubborn Denial quite a bit. We'll see what kind of impact it does have on this game. There's your Hoplite. We're going to head back Yarborough's way, knowing that he has to worry about Stubborn Denial at this point. He's going to sacrifice Polluted Delta. We'll see what land he wants to search up. Island or Swamp.
And he still has the second Thoughtseize left over, so you can try to chain together multiple cards in a turn here as well.
Looks like he's going Swamp Hunting. Now, one thing to keep in mind about this deck, and talking with Shaheen, and he wrote an article about it as well. He said, the mana in this deck is fine, but it's not great. I mean, this is a 3-color deck. You have Swamp in play.
Yeah, there's definitely no Hallowed Fountain, Watery Grave kind of mana piece.
Yeah,
it's
not at
tougher
all.
than that. And these fetch lands, like I said, they are great for facilitating delve spells, but in terms of just raw mana fixing, they are not as good as even Pain lands are.
Yep. I think that's part of the issue, because we might see a Bile Blight happen here, and that looks like exactly what will happen. And chances are it gets countered by Stubborn Denial, and it will. And this isn't something that comes as much of a surprise to Chris. I think he's just saying, I need to get past this point in the game, get one of those out of your hand, as he does have a copy of Hero's Downfall in his hand. The question, of course, is does he have a third land as he reaches? He'll be casting another Bile Blight, so fair enough. The third land is a copy of Temple to See. Take a look at the top card. Now he's got to work his way towards white mana.
But for the time being, Zebiriah's got nothing going on, and Christopher knows that this is the case, so he's got time to find it.
The draw was another copy of Temple of Enlightenment, so that's going to come into play quickly. Take a look at the top card. That one is staying on top, so it must be a goodie. Pass the turn back.
Has to be a creature, because everything else has to go to the bottom until Zebiriah finds one. His game does not start until then.
This is one of those games where I wouldn't want to play Heroic.
Well, you don't know that yet. It's looking pretty bad.
It's not a promising start. It's not a promising start.
Not a great start. But
Flooded Strand plus passing the turn back. Let's see what the draw is. It's a creature. It's a good one.
Stoneforge Mystic.
Yes, that's correct. Basically the same card.
Effectively, they're so similar.
Windswept Teeth is going to get sacrificed. They're going to go a little bit lower. Time to search up a Plains. There that is.
Zebiriah could really use Treasure Cruise.
That would be very helpful for him right now. Let him reload and get back into this thing, because as it stands, doesn't have a great draw at this point.
Though the control decks of this format do not have the same inevitability of the previous ones, because there's no revelation. You kind of have to win straight up.
Yeah, I mean, Dig Through Time doesn't give the same amount of inevitability. It kind of feels the same, I would say, but it's not the exact same.
It's very powerful. You win the game a lot from a neutral board, but it's not a free win like Revelation is.
Yeah. Yarbourgh going to sacrifice his Flooded Strand very, very quickly, so perhaps we'll see it dissolve here in just a moment on the Heliod's Pilgrim. There is an island, and a beautiful one at that. Where's it from?
Beta, possibly alpha, most likely beta.
Okay.
Same with the swamps.
Good work.
Well, that one's pretty easy to get.
I mean, I don't know them. I'm just not good at it. I know the text of cards. I don't know the picture of cards that well. That's a dissolve. I know that picture. Or not the pictures. I don't know the sets that they're from.
Sure.
That's my weakness. Yarbourgh going to draw. Taking care of another creature. Here's a Thoughtseize. See what you're working with. Defiant Strike, Aqueous Form, and Stubborn Denial. Stubborn Denial is kind of annoying, so that's got to go away.
Yep. Now a hand that would be hard-pressed to win a draft game.
Yep. Pass it back. All it takes is one creature, though. Let's see the draw. Manic Influence, not what the doctor ordered. Go back Christopher's way. He'll draw. A little game of draw go here. Probably favors the control player.
Yeah, well, if Christopher finds white mana, you have to imagine some of his hand is unlocked.
Yeah. Step 1, Temple of Enlightenment. Little Scry. Hillard's draw last turn was a copy of Ordeal of Thassus. Now he really needs a creature. Defiant Strike. That's not a creature.
Nice.
Manic Influence. Pass it back. Draw a card.
Now, that is a card I would sideboard out, I think, of Zebiriah, because there's no creature combat involved in the matchup.
Sure.
And there's a good chance it gets stranded.
Here if I Rose was the draw, but electing not to cast it.
Well, I think Zebiriah can't even protect it right now. There's no God's Willing. There's no... So the odds that Christopher has no counter spell and no removal spell is
Seems
basically
quite
0.
low, yeah.
So I like just waiting.
Because if those aren't in his hand, what is in his hand, right? That's
I guess
the
white
question.
cards.
Sure, sure. It's not the only thing you can't play. Sacrifice the Delta here. Get another island out of the deck. Draw a card here. Will Yarbourgh. Pass turn back. Take a draw. God's Willing.
Now I think it's worth casting.
I think so, too.
He can at least fight through one removal spell.
Yep. I think it is certainly reasonable now.
Still waiting.
Glare of Heresy looks like the draw for Yarbourgh. There's a Delta. So we need another white mana. Perhaps Elspeth over there for Christopher. Not quite sure. But neither player making a move. And this certainly does favor Christopher, as Hillard is very, very patient. There's a dig through time. That's why I think things favor Christopher. It's this card.
Yep. Well, he's got more powerful individual cards. His draw steps aren't predicated on finding other things. All of his cards just kind of work on their own. And he does have more card drawing.
So through the deck we'll go. Take a look at 7 cards and, of course, choose 2 of them. Happy with the selection. The rest will go on the bottom. Thankfully, they don't go in the graveyard. I just think you'd be able to chain digs together. That probably wouldn't be good. That's
Well,
what I thought initially.
That you just win off.
Yeah, you get 2 cards and the other 5 go in the graveyard. And then I thought for a moment, I said, that would be terrible.
R&D's become a lot more disciplined about making sure cards don't go to the graveyard for free.
Yeah.
Jace Architect of Thought's another really good example. Because they're trying to pull from Fact or Fiction. You can see them easily saying, and they go to the graveyard, but the power of that card goes through the roof at that point.
Yeah, it looks like it was going to be a Thoughtseize. Very interesting. Zebiriah's going to concede the game in response to the Thoughtseize. Does not want to give away any information.
He knows he's beat.
Okay.
His opponent just digged through time, and Zebiriah has nothing going on. He's about to have his one creature Thoughtseized away. I like a concession there.
Okay. We don't see that very often, especially camera matches.
I guess I would have wanted to see how Christopher won the game. Like, what's his win condition?
Yes and no. I think that the game ever gets to that point where we're late in the game where I don't think it matters really how he wins. Like, if it's Pearl Lake Ancient versus if it's Elspeth versus, like, if it's Ashiok or something, I don't think it matters a ton.
It may influence how you play with Stubborn Denial.
Okay.
If it's Pearl Lake Ancient, for example, you might be more aggressive using Stubborn Denial rather than trying to keep him off of Elspeth.
Sure, sure.
So there's a little information to be gained, but not really that much.
It's an aggressive concession nonetheless. And we'll be heading to a third game here. Both players going to go to the sideboard.
You're never going to, again, I'll never critique someone for conceding too fast.
I know that. I know you want to get out of Dodge as quick as you can. Move on to the next game. That's what we'll be doing.
You can't win them all. So why spend a lot of time in the games where you can't win?
There's a famous saying by Ben Rubin, I believe.
Win some, lose most.
Yeah, it's true. He's a pretty smart guy.
Applicable to all sorts of aspects of life.
Not just Magic.
Yeah, you can apply that everywhere.
Yeah. Win some, lose most. Oh, BR, a very smart guy. Well, while we do wait here for game number 3, we will talk about Squirrel Confidant, the latest and greatest member of the Squirrel Collection series. Hopefully not the last, though nothing has been announced yet for 2015.
Yes, and you can see available on StarCityGames.com right now. The dice bag, playmat, sleeve, deck boxes, those are all available. Plus, any open series or any other event that we're vending, you can buy those up at the booth.
Yep, Squirrel tokens, you get 2 free with each Legacy Open Series entry for the rest of the year. Now note, they're Squirrel tokens, not Squirrel Confidant tokens, because we're going to do a little mix and match, a little grab bag action.
Sure.
Could be anything. Could be Squirrel Confidant, could be Squirrel Storm, could be Force of Squirrel, or Acorn Mystic, who knows? But you'll get 2 of them when you do join Legacy Open Series event, including tomorrow, where we will start the coverage of Treasure Cruise and Brainstorm along with Fetchlands. Squirrel Confidant now available at StarCityGames.com.
I love that we keep cranking them out.
Oh, by the way, you can lock me in for Death and Taxes next week.
You're playing Death and Taxes?
Yeah. Lock it in.
Did because of your endless mockery of the deck, someone offered to loan it to you?
It's like some to do with like the endless mockery, some to do that Mark Koenig destroyed the tournament last weekend in Richmond.
Sure.
And the Europeans always destroy with Death and Taxes, be it in Europe or when they come across to play here. Like when Pierre Nystrom won the tournament with Death and Taxes,
Yep.
you know, they don't just win like the Open Series. It's not like, oh man, barely hung on and got the job done.
It's a clinic.
They just destroy everyone with it.
I know.
So it's like, I'm clearly missing something. So I'm just gonna, you know what? Thalia, Caracas, and Mother of Runes and Aether File, let's go.
Are you going to have Bermaz in your standard deck and in your legacy deck?
Better believe it. Just transition them right over. Don't need more copies.
I got to have a run like that during the Open Series a couple of years ago, but it was with Lightning Bolt, where I just got to swap one deck to the other.
You know what? Lightning Bolt doesn't kill.
Bermaz.
Yes, sir.
It's true.
My deck is better than yours.
Well, it's like part of the reason Bermaz gets played in Legacy. Most of the damage is three or less.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Yep.
No one's flame slashing, you know. Bermaz is pretty tough to kill.
So I'm sure at some point I will come up to you next week and tell you how much I hate my deck.
Oh, I know.
I think that's going to happen. But another Legacy tournament without me casting Brainstorm. Let's see how this goes.
I'm really excited about you drawing the first 3 cards of your opening hand round 1, and it's Batterskull and 2 Caracases.
Come on. Come on, man. Come on. Don't do me like that.
Are you playing in a Ganjo Castle?
Well, as you speak of it, maybe. It's probably not free, but I kind of want to now.
It's definitely not free.
I kind of want to. I hope it's my only white source and I get wastelanded into the ground.
Sure. Happens.
Yeah. Is there any reason for me to even play that card?
Well,
Probably some corner case interaction.
helps in some creature combat scenarios. It means your Thalia can't be killed by Fort Bolt,
Sure.
which is, I mean, people play a lot of Fort Bolts right now.
You're right. It is a card that does see play. It is.
It means your Thalia can't be killed by Pyroclasm.
Oof.
Comes up in your post-board games.
Yes, this is true. Okay. Oofa. I like that. My Bermaz can't be killed by Mizium Mortars.
Cannot Mortars that guy.
Can't Fire Blast it.
Cannot Lightning Axe it.
So got that covered. Don't think there are any more legends in my deck. Not going to play Mangara of Karndor. So I might just play a castle just for funsies.
Okay.
That's what I might do. Flooded Strand, I got to sacrifice that. I think you're going to go down to 19. Both players look to have kept their 7 cards. I imagine we've got a favorite hoplite on the way.
And there's also just the happiness that you get when you get to play with lands that have powers where your opponent might mess up. It's part of the allure of playing with the Tabernacle at Pendrelvale in Legacy. Because sometimes it just gets to be Wrath of God. Especially the Italian one.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get in a Ganjo Castle, you got to get a Chinese one. Or,
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Maybe. Not really sure what the market is on those. Jerry probably has one. I kind of just want to play an Oboro. Just because I just want to pick it up sometimes.
the Oboro is loose.
I just want to play one.
Go with Cataclysm, I guess.
Yeah. You know I'm playing those. There is the favorite hoplite to start things up. Let's see what Chris has here. So he has 7 cards and Zeb has 6 as far as opening hands are concerned. And Yarbourgh is really giving this a lot of thought. It's going to be a discard spell off the Yarbourgh, and it's going to be a Thoughtseize. So take a look at the hand. And Brahma has 2 copies of Battle-Wise Hoplite and a Flooded Strand. He would select the Strand if he could, but as it stands, he's going to have to pick something else. Probably Brahma's in this situation, given that taking a Battle-Wise Hoplite probably doesn't do all that much, but we'll see. He's going to go with the Hoplite, so ignore me.
Well, it might be one of those things where Bramaz is too slow, and there's no guarantee that it even gets cast.
Sure.
So Christopher could generate a curve of removal spell, hope your Bramaz gets stranded, or I can dissolve it by the time you get there.
Going to sacrifice the Flood Strand. Treasure Cruise was the draw step for Zebiriah. He will search up an island. You have to imagine he'll be casting Battle-Wise Hoplite this turn. And then moving forward appropriately. So not a bad start here for the Rogue deck, but somebody needs like an Ordeal of Thassa.
This is another consequence of having this sort of draw. We get hung up on the, your one creature gets killed draw. There's also the other side of it, which is your draw is just creatures, and they're not very good until you have enchantments. You need to have the mix and match.
The Rogue creatures do need some help. There's the Hoplite. This Hoplite will attack for 1.
Now, Zebiriah does have Treasure Cruise in hand. He's already getting fairly close.
Yep.
I mean, 3 cards in his graveyard already.
There's your Despise. Well, that makes more sense, but that's another card in the graveyard.
And that Bramaz might not have been able to be cast anyway. So this Bramaz might do more work for Zebiriah in the graveyard than it does in his hand.
Now think about it. He draws one of the fetch lands in his deck, and he's playing more than most. There are 4 cards in the graveyard. Fetch land is number 5 plus 3 mana in play. All of a sudden, we're cruising. So if he peels off a Windswept Teeth or a Flooded Strand, life would be pretty good. As it stands, it's a God's Willing, which isn't so bad.
That's a fine draw here.
Yep.
Most likely, Christopher's going to try to weather the storm of the next couple turns here with removal spells. If that's the case, God's Willing stops one of those and puts another card in the graveyard.
Yarbrough's at 14. Polluted Delta just passed the turn back. Hillard will draw. Didn't get a great look at it, but it's a land. It's a copy of Temple of Enlightenment. Take a look at the top card. That one's going to the bottom. Did not like what he saw. It's time for beatdowns. 3 of them. And we're going to take it. Hero's Downfall going after Battle-Wise Hoplite. I think he's probably going to save it. Yeah.
Not much else to do with this God Willing. It's also another card in the graveyard.
Yep. Again, able to tap the Delta for black mana because Yarbourgh is in play. God's Willing Scry is going to stay on top, as will the Scry from Battle-Wise Hoplite's Heroic Trigger too. So very happy with the card that's on top of the deck is Hillard. Land number 4 is Temple of Silence here for Christopher. Take a look at the top card. Consult the hand. And figure out where it's going to go.
Christopher also without double blue right now, which means Zebiriah does not have to respect the possibility of dissolve. There's a dig through time in Christopher's hand right now that he can't cast. You see another Despise, and he knows that that's no good.
Yep. Some rather disjointed draws here from the Esper deck. Things not lining up correctly. A little too much of one thing, a little too little of the other. There's a downfall, going to go to the Battle-Wise Hoplite. That'll get taken care of, but now Treasure Cruise is on. Though, remember, Hillard did leave the card on top of his deck, so he knows what he's drawing. It's a copy of Ordeal of Thassa. He will cast that. He will trigger Heroic. He will attack.
And I like doing this instead of Treasure Cruising, I think, because Christopher has to answer this right now. And if he does, then Treasure Cruises for 1 mana next turn.
Yep. And that'll allow him to reload pretty easily. There's land number 5. It's also a second source of white mana. Hero's Downfall says, get off my table. But as you mentioned, now it's a 1 mana Treasure Cruise. That's a big deal here.
And now those 2 fetch lands give Christopher the ability right now to go get 2 islands and cast Dig Through Time. And I can tell that he's thinking about, do I want, more information / the ability to bluff here? Do I want to risk this getting hit by Stubborn Denial?
Yeah. Looks like he is going to sacrifice both those fetch lands and go island hunting. It is a concern, Stubborn now, but I think he knows about the Treasure Cruise in hand from another discard spell.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's a risk of Zebiriah just drawing a Stubborn Denial off of the cruise or for his draw step.
Sure.
So I'm sure in an ideal world, Christopher would like to wait for more information about what he wants to keep with the dig through time.
Yep.
But he can probably do a good enough job guessing. And if this dig through time got countered, Christopher's maybe out of the game altogether. So
it's a nightmare.
I like casting it right now.
That's what it looks like he's going to do. There are the 2 islands. There is dig through time. So delve 6, pay 2 blue. That's the 8 necessary to take a look at 7 cards and choose 2 of them. So let's see if Yarbourgh can find something he likes of the 7. Glare of Heresy is 1. The other one is a mystery. But Glare's a pretty safe one.
Yeah, it's unlikely that one fails.
Yeah.
The problem is with taking these removal spells, yes, this is good, but Zebiriah is about to gas up himself. So Christopher eventually needs to find something to seal the deal. And he is at 6.
There's a cruise. 7 cards are going to have to get removed here. This looks like just 1 Flooded Shrine will get to stay in the graveyard. So 3 cards coming here. A Windswept Heath. Looks like a Tranquil Cove along with a copy of God's Willing. None of those are creatures.
Yeah, this is nothing.
So perhaps a bullet dodge there for Yarbourgh. So he'll draw a card. He's looking to take control of this game now. There's land number 6. Despise? Maybe.
Despise is a little weird here. I mean, the information's valuable, but what on earth did Zebiriah draw that he didn't cast?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? He can guess every creature.
But at this point, what else is going to happen with that Despise? For the reason that you mentioned, he can just cast every creature, so might as well get the information, see what's up.
Yeah, and I like having the information of knowing my opponent has God's Willing and have to worry about that, along with the lands, too. Gonna sacrifice a Windswept Heath here, Will Hillard. Paying 1 mana and basically discarding a card to know your opponent has God's Willing. Not the best exchange, of course, but it's better than nothing, and knowing is certainly nice.
Yeah. This is part of the reason I like Dig Through Time in these control decks instead of Treasure Cruise, because drawing discard spells is not great once we've gotten to turn 7 to turn 8. So I'd much rather use discard spells early and then have selection later on than draw a bunch of discard spells early and then continue to draw discard spells.
Well, Hillard needs some help, so let's see what a draw step can find for him. Let's copy a Defiant Strike. That's not much help. Tranquil Cove may come into play here, and it will. So he's going to go up to 18.
Yeah, at this point, Zebiriah is not bluffing anything. Christopher knows his hand, so he might as well just play his lands out.
Three mana. Let's make it 5. Perhaps Prognostic Sphinx? Yes, it's a Dig Through Time instead. It's a blue card. Maybe this will find a Prognostic Sphinx. Could be a way for Yarbourgh to actually put a close to this game.
I'm curious to see how Christopher decided to win the game here.
Yeah.
What's his win condition?
We didn't find out last game.
Because of Stubborn Denial, I kind of like going to Prognostic Sphinx. And these heroic decks often have things like Negate in the sideboard too.
There are 2 in Hilliard's sideboard. So that's an answer to a card like Elspeth. But no clean answer to Prognostic Sphinx from these decks. And once it gets in play, it's very hard to get it out of play. When is that card going to see more play?
The Sphinx?
Yeah.
I already sees a fair bit.
Not as much as I expected. Given what it did at Pro Tour Journey to Nyx in the Sultai decks that a lot of players had success with, and it was just kind of a big deal in that format. Get that thing in play, which is so hard to beat, and the interactions you had with it against Ashiok or with your own Ashioks to mill it and then bring it into play.
Well,
it's a huge card.
So good against Ashiok, really good against Elspeth, and really good against Fleecemane Lion, all of which were defining cards.
Yep.
The standard format's a little more broad, and Prognostic Sphinx may just not be powerful enough to warrant inclusion.
At least not yet.
It'll have its time. I'm sure it's going to float into decks as being a win condition in control decks or certain mid-range strategies, but just because it was good in block does not mean it necessarily ports over into standard.
Both players just lands on the battlefield. Draw a card. Favorite Hoplite. Start small. Work your way up. Or not. Here's the dissolve. And I like the use of dissolve here because the only thing that matters are really creatures.
Exactly. Zebiriah can't do anything until a creature gets in play, and once a creature does resolve, all of a sudden things like God's Willing and Beta Resistance start working against some of your answers, so just fight over that.
Temple. That's another aspect I like of this Esper control deck is if it can get itself into a situation like this. You've got 12 temples in your deck, you got dig through times. You got ways to actually get to the action in your deck. There's a temple there for Hillard. He doesn't have as many as Yarbourgh, of course, only 4. Top card going to go to the bottom. Pass it back Christopher's way.
Yeah, the difference in quality in their draw steps at this point is just huge.
Yeah. The Ram will start working on Yarbrough's life total. Looks like Hero Heroes was the draw. 2 mana. Attempt to deploy. See if Christopher has a counterspell in his hand. Yep, another dissolve. Again, these may feel like aggressive uses of dissolve, but I really like them.
Exactly. I just never want a creature to get into play because this deck doesn't do anything until that happens. So it's a good place to pick a fight.
Pass the turn back, up to 7. Aha! A rather defiant strike. Negate the draw. There's a Windswept Heath. Yarbourgh. Another temple. If you're going to draw lands, they might as well scry.
I'm really curious to see how Christopher ends up winning this game if he does. I think he's a pretty big favorite from here, though keep in mind, Zebiriah still has a copy of Treasure Cruise left in his deck, assuming he brought in the second copy.
Yep.
It's a way for him to pull back into this.
Tick-tock goes the clock as well, mind you. Got 5 minutes. I mean, a draw would be unlikely, I think, but I've seen stranger things.
I think Christopher's likely to be able to win here in time, but it is a concern, and Christopher has played a little bit on the slower side, which is something that I think he needs to speed up here, because it is a risk.
Looks like another negate wants to draw. Take a draw. Thoughtseize, kick it back. Temple, take a look. Bottoms up, pass the turn back. Up to 10 from the Ram. Swamp the draw, comes into play, kick it. I think these players realize how much time is left. They're trying to play a little bit quicker. Temple, take a look. Bottom, pass it. Hoplite of the Battle-Wise variety will be placed onto the stack.
And Zebiriah is equipped to pick a fight over this. I mean, a couple copies negate. Zebiriah still has to act first here because the Ram has it checked for the time being.
Here's a Thoughtseize to try to clear the way. This will be a negate. Perhaps we're going to have a battle over the discard spell. Yarbourgh trying to clear the way for his Sorin Solemn Visitor. Let's see what he goes with next. It's a Glare of Heresy targeting a Battle-Wise Hoplite. I think someone's going to go for reaching for God's Willing, and they will. So here's the chain that we thought we'd see eventually.
Yeah, this is what happens when the creature finally gets into play for this deck.
Yep.
Then the white-blue heroic deck can start picking a fight over certain things.
Murder's Cut here will be negated. So look at him go. Actually, it was a Bioblood. I do take that back, but either way, its removal spell is trying to kill Battle-Wise Hoplite. Negate took care of that. God's Willing plus the Scry going to resolve here. Going to keep that on top. Counter from Heroic. So now we'll clear the stack. When the dust settles, there's a 3/3 Battle-Wise Hoplite in play. Nyxfleece Ram on Yarborough's side, but he gets the ability to cast one more spell, and it's a Sorin Solemn Visitor. No counter spell there from Hillard. So we'll take that down, get a Vampire into play. And Yarbourgh will pass the turn back. We know what he's drawing. It's a copy of Ordeal of Thassa.
That's a huge draw here.
Yes. He will reach and deploy. Heroic Trigger. Up to a 4/4. Scry. Bottom.
Zebiriah has done a lot of scry in this game, too.
Yeah. Time to peel 2.
Whoa.
Oh, I think that's one too many. Yeah, we're going to have to stop that game.
Magic players, that is time of the round.
Yep, I think he drew one too many cards there. So he did have 1 card. I think he went up to 4. Yep, there's the 3rd one.
Yeah,
So,
I think the spotter was on it.
Yep. And our spotter / table judge right on top of that. So we're dealing with thoughts. So draw 2, not draw 3. Deck, I think that deck would be pretty good if it was draw 3.
I mean, it's still pretty good at draw 2.
That's
To me, it feels like it's the best card in the deck.
Yeah.
Often at draw 2.
So we'll have to see what the ruling is here. Yeah, and I think it's just going to be a game lost drawing extra cards, which is clearly not timely, but I do think that was going to be a difficult game for Hillard to win anyway.
He would have to draw extremely well. Not impossible, but I think Christopher was a pretty heavy favorite from that spot. But